In the last video, we've got the player movement working. In this video, we're going to get the very basic weapon moving, my most hated weapon from the original game, Vampire Survivors, which is the knife. It moves in the direction that the player is looking. We're going to do the same thing though, because it is a basic, easy to use, easy to program weapon. So let's go ahead and add an area node in a new scene. Let's call it knife. And we're going to go ahead and add in a collision shape for this. And a sprite. Just a sprite 2D. I'll go to 2D here. Now, if you were working from my original one yesterday, you won't have this sprite, but I had put it on the classroom. But for those of you that aren't in my classes, you can just grab any knife sprite you want. And we're going to put that in there. Now, I'm actually going to make a little bit of an animation for this. So we're going to go ahead and add in an animated sprite. Animation player. Well, let me just check. I don't think this has this feature. I know Game Maker had the feature where you could animate rotation. Doesn't look like it. So I'll delete that. And we'll add in animation player, which is this here. And under here, animation. I'm going to make a new animation. Call it spinning. And it's going to be pretty simple. We're going to go to Sprite 2D. We're going to go to Transform. The rotation is going to be locked. Yeah, that's fine. And then when we get to 1, we're going to change that to 360. Lock it. And then that should do that. Now we want this animation to just loop forever. Like that. And we could even turn it down so the animation goes for 0.5. And we'll bring that right back to there. There we go. Okay, so we've got a spinning thing. That might be too fast. We'll make an autoplay as well. So that was looping forever, autoplay, and there we go. So there's our sprite. Collision shape. We will make it a new circle shape. And we'll make it about that size there. That should cover. Yeah, that's pretty good. You could make it bigger if you wanted it to be more exact, and why not? Let's do that. Make it cover the whole sprite. There we go, just a tip there. Okay, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to save it as knife, and then we'll go into the player code. We'll come back to here shortly. Now we're going to rename this to knife timer, and this is going to be auto start. We'll start with 1 second to start with. Okay, so we'll test this. Every 1 second, it's going to fire it. Go to node. Timeout. We're going to connect that to the player up here. So now we've got a signal that happens whenever knife timer switches. If you're not listening to the code or me talking in class, you're just listening to music, I'll know straight away, because every time you guys just copy the code and you don't do the signal bit because you're not listening. All right, so what we've got to do is add in some simple code here. And the code for this part is knife. Oh, actually, we've got to do one thing first. It's at the top here. We're going to get a reference to our knife scene. So save knife into scene. I'm going to hold control and drag that across here. We've got a reference to this. And then knife equals instantiate knife.global position equals global position, and then world. We'll get a reference to our world. At the top here, we'll add a reference to that. Bar world get node. /root/world. Yep, I've called it capital W, so we will need to get a reference to that. We will only now be able to test this in our world scene. It will give us an error if we try to load the player outside of that. World add child. Okay, so let's go to our world scene and we'll put the player into the world. And we can test this. Okay, every 1 second it's adding a knife. The knife isn't actually doing anything. It's just in there spinning. So now we need to go ahead and we're going to add one more bit of code to this, which I just forgot. Knife.rotation is going to be, let's have a look. We need to get the direction that our player is moving at. Let's go to the top here and add a little variable, last direction. We call it direction facing equals vector2.0. It's not facing any direction to start with. But then after we push a key, we're going to say, no, we don't even need to do that. We don't need that. We can just go down here. Knife.rotation equals direction.angle. And that will give us the angle of our direction, except direction is here. So let's declare direction. Var direction equals vector 2.0. We can get rid of the var there, and that should work. Now, on the knife, we need a really simple bit of code. It's just going to move it along whatever direction it's facing. So the knife code is going to look like this. We'll put it into physics process. Translate. It actually doesn't need to be in physics process, but we'll put it in there. Now let's just put it in process. Translate vector2.right.rotated rotation. How do I know what to do here? How do I know what this code does? Trial and error, basically. Okay, I knew what I wanted it to do, and then I just kind of Googled it. Now we do need a speed. Speed equals 500. Make sure that's it. Okay, so this here will now make the knife. Oops, it's gonna. Ooh, what have we got? Non-existent function rotation in base area knife. Okay. I think I meant to say rotated. No, not rotation. Well, let's have a look at what my previous one is. Oh, knife.rotate, sorry. Not rotation, just rotate. Okay, shoots that way, shoots that way, shoots that way, shoots down, up, right, that way, and that way. All right, there we go. Now, if you think that knife is too fast, you always go to the knife object, go to the inspector, and turn that speed down. Remember, our player moves at 100, 350 might be a better speed for it. Or you can change it in the code if you want to. Looks like it's still moving at 500. May have to change it in the code in this case because it's creating a new one each time. Or maybe that's just still really fast. I think it is. If I change it to 150, does it make a difference? Yeah, that's way too slow. So 350 seems to be good for that knife. Okay, that's the second video. The next one, we'll make some enemies.